Hey everyone, it's Patrisse Cullors here, and I'm at Luna. I am here with the curatorial director, Lumi Tan. Welcome, Lumi, to Artist2Artist, Reset the Algorithm.
Thank you so much for having me. So excited to talk today.
I don't know how I'm gonna get through this interview without giggling, smiling.
That's what we want. That's what we want. We want all the emotions.
This is stunning. I walked in and was just like, chills, tears. It feels, as an artist, like this just feels like almost like a dream I didn't know I had come true.
Yes.
So we're in front of an epic Basquiat Ferris wheel. Can you tell us a little bit more about this piece?
Sure. I just want to say that so many people have phrased it exactly how you just said it, like that Luna Luna is like a dream that you maybe like thought you had, or like a fever dream. Like it always exists in this like middle space between reality and fantasy, right?
Which is what I'm feeling like.
Yeah, just exactly what we want. But so anyways, this is a Ferris wheel by Jean-Michel Basquiat that was part of Luna Luna. It originally is from the 1930s. It's a wooden Ferris wheel that he really put his signature drawings and motifs on every single surface, on every single gondola. You have, anatomical drawings, you have references to jazz, to American slavery, to, you just really every, part of his practice is reflected on this Ferris wheel.
How did Basquiat get involved? Like, how was he roped into this?
Yes. So André Heller, who is the artist behind Luna Luna, he really spent years going on, kind of a world tour convincing artists to be a part of this. And the question he said that he asked all the artists was like, do you remember what it was like to be a child? And, how can we tap into that childlike joy and wonder, but also, bring in, reflect your own practice, reflect the contemporary practice. Like, do not shy away from, political issues, the things that are occupying all of us on a daily basis. So, one of the trips that André Heller went on was to New York, and he visited Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat and Kenny Scharf as almost like a trio. They were all peers and friends, and really shared a lot of sensibilities together. So,
and they were young people.
They were young people.
Part of why I wanted to start Artist2Artist is because I felt like I really wanted to highlight the work of contemporary artists. And I personally feel like artists are always at the helm of social change. And I think starting here at Basquiat, he was that artist that was talking about the issues of the time.
Absolutely.
And he did not shy away from any of it. How was it for you to look at these works for the first time?
It was very emotional. When I came into this role, the works were, somewhat assembled, but not fully assembled as we see here. And I think, exactly like what you said, you kind of have this idea of how you might feel, but then you come into presence with it and it changes everything. And I think that's so much about, exactly what you don't think about it necessarily, but that's what an amusement park does, right? Your body is in the proximity to all these different, emotionally manipulative ways of being. You're being very vulnerable. You're kind of putting yourself in these situations that you wouldn't naturally be in. And to combine that with contemporary art, just these absolute legends, and as well as making huge discoveries for myself, even as curator, art historian, is so absolutely mind-blowing.
I love it so much. We're not hearing it now, and usually this Ferris wheel is actually being a Ferris wheel, but there's some gorgeous sonic things happening once it spins. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So this Ferris wheel was accompanied by Miles Davis's Tutu, which was a song and then also an album that came out in 1987. And Miles Davis was a hero to Basquiat. And music in general was very important to Luna Luna. A lot of the artists were involved in, bands like Basquiat, for example, or in opera, or theater, or just being very interdisciplinary, really seeing themselves as not just visual artists, but part of all sorts of different cultures and reaching out to different audiences.
Yes. I love that so much. So much of my own personal practice mixes like visual art with soundscape. So you all are probably, well, maybe we'll get a moment to like see it and hear it. But when I saw it spinning and listening to Miles with this piece, I don't understand what's happening right now. Mind blown emoji. It is so special. Like, I'm not like, I don't gas things up unless I love them, but honestly, team, like, you need to get to this exhibition because it's historical. It's like, there's these moments in history. I'm 40 last year, so I got to see when Prince was in LA for his 21-night stand at the Inglewood Forum. And I tell people that, and I'm like, I'm so glad I made that happen, because it was like, he's not alive anymore. May he rest in peace. And he was epic, and like, that's how I feel about this. You gotta come while it's up. It's up until
May.
It's up until May. So we have time. I would say come now during Freeze Week, and also bring your family, bring your friends, bring your coworkers. I really think we need Luna Luna right now, especially given what's happening in the world. How much grief, how much suffering, how much trauma. Like, coming in here, I'm just having these moments of like, oh, I'm a human being.
Yes.
And that's incredible.
You should talk too.
Oh my God. Wait, who is this? Salvador Dali?
So this is Salvador Dali.
What? Of course it's Salvador Dali. Okay, can you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a work by Salvador Dali, and so Salvador Dali is one of the first artists that André Heller spoke to about Luna Luna in the early 70s. It comes with this incredible soundtrack by an Austrian synth band called Blue Chip Orchestra. It's like combines Gregorian chanting with like some ambient moments. But Salvador Dali was someone who was really interested in this idea of the amusement park, of fun houses. He built the Surrealist Fun House in 1939 at the World's Fair. And there's these like mermaid figures on the outside of this piece that are taken from that work, The Dream of Venus. But what I really love about this piece is like, how it changes your voice, and it's so resonant in here. And he really saw like the reflections, the geodesic dome, as a way to access your subconscious and understand. We have, it's like images of people in here by themselves having a contemplative moment, but also like parties, kind of this collective space.
So in the work that I do, I run a small arts organization called the Crenshaw Dairy Mart with Alireza, Doris, Noe Olivas, Ashley Blakeney as our executive director. And the geodesic dome is really important for our work.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we built a thing called the Abolitionist Pod, so it's the wavelengths for me. Lumi, tell me about how we got here.
All right.
Give us the history, the lowdown.
Okay, it's a bit of a wild ride, so stick with me. Luna Luna was the vision of the artist André Heller.
Yes.
And André was a very kind of specific cultural figure. So he was based in Vienna, and he started his career as a pop singer.
Amazing.
And kind of a poet. He was like, on television shows, like just a very, prominent figure in just everyday culture in Austria. Then he started to get a little bit weirder. So he started to make experimental films that were shown on television. And then he started to get really interested in these like large-scale multimedia artworks. So, nothing that was ever contained within gallery or museum walls. He did fireworks displays over the Reichstag. So kind of, fireworks that you could see from East Germany, which was really powerful and symbolic at the time.
Of course.
and flying sculptures that toured the world. But Luna Luna was something that he had dreamt of kind of his whole life. And a lot of it stemmed from his own childhood, growing up after World War II, feeling that childlike wonder, the joy, the sense of freedom and play was kind of taken away from an entire generation of children in Europe. And the amusement park in Vienna was this really important place for him, really symbolic place for the city, as a place for collective joy. And so, he started this whole process of putting together Luna Luna in the 70s, and he spoke to Salvador Dali and Sonia Delaunay, who were, both extremely famous artists at that time. But what I think he recognized in them, and then all these other artists that he brought into the fold once kind of they agreed, and he could kind of establish being like, oh, well, Salvador Dali said yes,
yes.
was this idea of marrying art and life, and this whole idea of putting out into the world, making it more accessible, bringing it to broader publics. Yeah. And so, have Sonia Delaunay, who was in the 20s, putting her paintings on clothing, on cars, not being afraid of her work being seen as design instead of fine art, breaking down those barriers. And then Salvador Dali, as I mentioned, like working with Disney or, bringing his art to larger audiences. And then it kind of continued from there, where he spoke to, Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kenny Scharf in New York. He went to LA to visit David Hockney. Then he kind of toured Europe, talking to, artists in Paris and Berlin, and then kind of coming back to his hometown of Vienna and gathering up all his friends.
Yeah.
And so the park was actually able to happen because of, he found private sponsorship from a German magazine, and it happened in the summer of 1987 in Hamburg, Germany. And it was really successful. It was, a place where all sorts of audiences who wouldn't necessarily normally go to a museum would go. Almost 300,000 people went over the course of 2.5 months.
Wow.
Yeah. No, it was incredibly successful. And so, the next step was, obviously a world tour.
Yes.
But the world tour didn't happen. And so instead, the whole park was packed up and got caught up in litigation for decades. And actually, the next stop was supposed to be San Diego. But, again, for various reasons, it got caught up in this litigation. And in the early 2000s, when the litigation was settled, all these 44 shipping containers, so the whole park was packed in, went to rural Texas and were just stored both indoors and outdoors at a storage facility.
Yes.
And kind of just fell out of art history, out of popular culture, and people didn't really know about it, despite it being this success and getting all this press at the time. And so then in 2018, various partners who eventually founded Luna Luna as a company were independently working, with André Heller to understand, what happened to Luna Luna? How do we get it out of these containers? Where is it?
Yes.
And over the course of 4 years, they were able to acquire all these containers as a collection with the help of Drake as a primary investor and his production company. Yes, it's always the plot twist.
Exactly.
And so then in January 2022, the 44 shipping containers were brought from Texas to Los Angeles, and our incredible studio team started the process of unpacking, reassembling, conserving, inventorying, all of this. And one really remarkable thing about the story is that when the shipping containers were purchased, it was sight unseen. So they knew that the park was in there, but they didn't know, was it the whole thing, what condition it was in.
Yes.
And so when the studio team started unpacking all of it, it was just like, this is the whole park. It's in incredible condition. Oh wow, here's all like T-shirts and sweatshirts by Keith Haring and Kenny Scharf. All these posters that we designed by artists we didn't know about. Like all this, park infrastructure. Like it was just the whole thing. Like turnstiles. Like just the whole thing was was trapped inside these containers for decades. And so I think we really wanted to get this into public view kind of as soon as possible. So what you see at Forgotten Fantasy is not the entire park, but it's about half of the collection, and it's in various stages of conservation. We really wanted to bring people into this process. You know, this idea that it's all of these works were interactive, they were used by hundreds of thousands of people. They are, I mean, you know, they are artworks now, but they reflect like their own history. And it became this, you know, really remarkable time capsule that we opened, and like just wanted to share with the public as soon as we possibly could.
It's so incredible. I'm like so overwhelmed, I feel sick, like in a good way. I'm just like, how is this possible?
Yes.
So tell us about like name the artists that are involved in this. Maybe you don't have to give all the background, but just like whose collection, like whose work are we seeing?
Sure. I mean, so there's Keith Haring, Jean-Michel Basquiat, Kenny Scharf, Roy Lichtenstein, David Hockney, Sonia Delaunay, Salvador Dali. And then, you know, some names that won't be as familiar, but I think have been incredible discoveries for, you know, even someone like me who has studied art history for a long time, like Arik Brauer, who did this beautiful carousel and, you know, was a painter, a singer, did set design, was an environmental activist. Wow. You know, we have people like Jim Whiting, who was at the time really well known for doing the animatronics in Herbie Hancock's iconic Rocket video. You know, there were over 30 artists in total, and they reflected all these different movements and styles, and André really wanted to break down the barriers between all these artists. So bringing together different generations, different styles, you know, just different approaches, and putting them all in this like magical environment of the amusement park.
So incredible. Well, you've talked a bit about your own kind of like, you're art historian, you're the curatorial director. How did you get involved? And what did you think when you like got the call?
So I think I was brought into the project because I had a bit of a reputation for being, you know, unconventional in my curatorial projects, taking a lot of risks, really believing in artists and creating like large-scale commissions together. And I had never heard of the project. I think like for everyone who first hears about it, I was like, that's not real. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. Like maybe it's a scam. But you know, I was like, you can't say no to
that's
that.
Right.
Like this is the dream. This is the dream to be part of art history, of building an art history, of being part of this art historical secret. And you know, just like it is an incredible research project for a curator to be brought in and like uncover, you know, these discoveries every single day.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? And if so, why? And maybe if you don't want to say it's favorite, but like one that like moved you when you saw it.
I mean, I really do have to say the Keith Haring carousel, because I think it's a really special piece, but also for myself, I think I'm a curator because I was able to get like a Keith Haring calendar at the mall. You know, like the way that he prioritized making art accessible to children, like was so meaningful to me growing up, like as someone who wasn't like going to museums or anything like that. But you know, when I saw this incredible carousel that he made with a self-portrait, and knowing that like, you know, he died just a few years later, and this was such a dream project for him. Like we have this incredible interview with him where he talks about how it was always a fantasy for him to create something for an amusement park, to reach kids in this way, to, you know, just have people interact with his work in this way. It always makes me very emotional.
Oh, I love that.
And just the fact that he has like a self-portrait on it as well.
It's so special. You know, for us at Artist2Artist, we're really thinking about the role of the artist at the like precipice of social change. We believe the artist is really responsible for imagining a new world. What do you think about the role of artists, and what do you think about the role of Luna right now in this moment when we're dealing with so much pain and suffering as a globe? Like, what do you want to say to artists? What do you want to say about this exhibition?
I mean, such a big question. But, you know, I have always wanted to work with artists who are world makers, you know, who are really imagining different ways of being and, you know, not restricting themselves to the everyday horrors of living on Earth, you know,
Correct.
Yes, exactly. And believing in the radical change that art can bring.
That's right.
So, you know, with Luna Luna, I think it was very, very prescient in that way, where it wasn't just about escapism, because I think that's what a lot of people assume when, you know, it's the world's first art amusement park. It's just about escapism, it's just about joy. It was very much about, you know, again, like André Heller was part of this post-war generation. So many of the artists were this post-war generation. They spent much of their childhood being persecuted by the Nazis for having family members killed by Nazis. And, you know, we have a historical timeline in the show that kind of, you know, shows the impact of all these major world traumas and events and their effect on art, you know, and how art became a vehicle for radical change, for wildly expanding people's imaginations and, you know, making people exist in the world in a different way.
I have so many more questions for you, but we no longer have time. Okay. I feel very emotional. I'm so grateful you ended with that, because I do believe that part of what artists do in the moments of deep crisis and pain is hold up a mirror to be like, don't forget your humanity.
Exactly.
And part of that is like creating joy and spaces of joy. And I feel like Luna Luna is doing that. We need it right now. And this time period and this timeline, it is not a coincidence. And I'm just so grateful for y'all's vision and leadership and bringing it to my city. So why LA?
So we kind of see LA as like the first home for Luna Luna. So, you know, this where we first brought all the works, unpacked them. You know, our studio team has been so dedicated to this project. And as I mentioned, this whole thing is kind of this long-term project of conservation. So in a way, it's like we are seeing how these works exist in public for the first time.
Yes.
Again, you know, like taken out of the time capsule, and it's like the Basquiat Ferris wheel is a living machine that needs a lot of care and maintenance, and like to kind of keep it close to us at the start of this experience was really important. And also, you know, it's like we're in a sound stage. Like it is a really transformational space. You enter and you kind of could be anywhere, but it's also, you know, it's very specific to the worlds that LA makes, you know, in these cloistered buildings all over the city.
I love that. Well, for me, LA, because this is my city and this place is so special, and I feel like the art that's happening out of LA right now is deeply significant. And I can't wait to bring like so many people here. So thank you for sitting with me for Artist2Artist.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to talk to you.